So, to our speakers, our first speaker this morning is my very good friend and partner in this exercise, the co-chair of the summer study, John Jutsen. John has been an absolute institution in the whole area of energy efficiency and sustainable business for many years now. He founded Energetics, which I think is widely regarded as the leading energy efficiency consulting company in Australia back in 1894. Sorry, let me try that again. It was a long time ago, believe me. He's the chairman of the Australian Alliance to Save Energy. He's a chemical engineer with a master's in energy technology. He is recognised as one of Australia's 100 most influential engineers. And, well, I think most of you know John. I don't need to say anything more about his illustrious record. With that, please welcome John Jutsen.
Thanks, Chris. Before I get into this, I'd like to thank ISF and Chris for bravely, and probably he thinks foolishly now, agreeing to organise the conference this year after the previous two that we'd run. And I'd also like to thank all the great speakers that have come from around the world to share their ideas with us. Really appreciate you giving your time up, and judging by the presentation that I saw yesterday from several of the speakers to the New South Wales Government, I think that we've got a lot to look forward to. Fantastic speakers. We're all coming together at a time which is particularly critical, I think, because of just following the Paris Accord, where internationally we've come to an agreement of how to go forward on climate change. This agreement, unfortunately, somewhat contrasts with the lack of ability to come to any political consensus in Australia on this issue. But I think the good news story is the one behind me. Finally, there is something we all agree about. We have to get more value from the energy that we exploit. It's just not acceptable for us to waste over 85% of the energy that we dig up and collect. And now we've got a political consensus in this area, with all of the three major parties agreeing that we have to substantially improve our energy productivity. The only difference between the parties is the level of ambition that they believe that we should have in this area. So we're very, very pleased we've got to this point. The Australian Alliance to Save Energy is an organisation that has been designed to make Australia a more energy efficient society, a more energy productive society, and we recognise the need to improve energy productivity as a key economic agenda. Back 2 or 3 years ago, we followed the lead of Kateri, who's going to be talking tomorrow, the United States in this area, and set up the target of doubling Australia's energy productivity by 2030. So what's energy productivity? There's a lot of misunderstanding about the term, but basically we're talking about the total value that we get from using a unit of energy. That could be measured nationally in dollars of GDP term per unit of energy, but we're also looking at measuring other non-dollar values. For example, in a home, comfort is just as much a value as dollars of value created. So we're talking about how do we get more value from every unit of energy that we consume, and we believe that we should be able to double or more the amount of value we get. So the total energy productivity that we get from using energy is bigger than energy efficiency. Studies have been done that say that the total value that we create from saving a unit of energy is typically 2.5 times that in dollar value. So there's a lot to gain. And that gain is more than just the energy consumption itself. So why is it so important to make a step change in energy productivity right now? Well, the first driver, economic driver for us, is national competitiveness. Australia recognises there has to be a much more competitive society, and in the area of energy, our competitiveness has been plunging over the last decade. You'll see the United States is going the opposite direction that we are, but we have poor energy productivity, and that comes from decades of very low energy costs. We have one of the slowest rates of improvement in the OECD countries, and if that wasn't bad enough, in the last decade, while the rest of the world has had level or falling energy prices, apart from oil, our energy prices in Australia have been dramatically increasing. So you combine, you don't have to be an economist to figure out, you combine rapidly increasing costs with a non-competitive energy productivity, and you're in a bad state in terms of business and affordability of energy for people. As I mentioned, that would be bad enough if it wasn't for the fact that everybody else is now accelerating their rate of energy improvements. And you'll hear from several speakers later that President Obama in 2013 announced that I'm issuing a new goal for America. Let's cut in half the energy wasted by our homes and businesses over the next 20 years. Now, while that is an aspirational target, Katerina will be talking about it later, it's now being implemented. And other jurisdictions are also looking to double. The UN has got a sustainable energy for all goal of doubling their rate of energy efficiency improvement by 2030 to 2.6% per annum. So we're chasing a moving train in terms of our business competitiveness, and we have to go a lot faster than we are now. And energy costs us $110 billion a year, so it's non-trivial. And as I mentioned, there's 2.5 times that, at least, the additional productivity costs associated with our energy consumption. So we believe that we can save $30 billion a year by 2030 by doubling energy productivity, and total productivity benefits are over $75 billion a year are possible. On top of that, we're looking for improved affordability of energy. If consumers, we want consumers to substantially reduce their energy bills. And again, Stephen Adele will be talking later, I'm sure, about the Californian experience, where even though energy prices are very high in California, because of their demand management programs over the last 40 years, they have amongst the lowest energy bills in the United States because they have half the energy intensity of the rest of the United States. And there are other benefits as well, including oil self-sufficiency. The second big burning platform, it's a bad pun in this case, is about carbon emission reductions. Now, while our work has been focused, as a business coalition has been focused on improving economic outcomes for Australia, we all want to achieve substantial carbon reductions as well. And doubling energy productivity will help us get 60% of the way to our 26% national carbon reduction target. To do that, we'll be reducing our total energy consumption by 10%, while the economy grows at a slightly increased rate by doing this work. And I think this is one of the great news stories too. Energy productivity belies the myth that there's always a conflict between environmental and economic outcomes. In this area, they clearly are going in the same direction. Growth and energy use have already been decoupled in Australia, and the Doubling Energy Productivity program shows that by taking the measures that are in our control to improve our competitiveness and improve our economy, we can also drive fantastic environmental outcomes and substantially get to our carbon reduction goals. The next thing, which is starting to be recognised generally too, is that by not focusing enough on energy productivity over the last decade, we've actually squandered a lot of opportunity, and we've increased the risk in our electricity markets. And this is something that, from an economic point of view, has had a big impact on Australia already. Because our electricity and gas supplies have not been close enough to consumers, and we haven't had a big focus on demand management, we've taken some risks that we didn't even understand we were taking. We've squandered many billions of dollars in capital in electricity infrastructure, and the risk of stranded assets is increasing daily because of not properly understanding consumers' needs and looking to preferentially manage energy demand rather than augment energy supply. And as I said, we haven't recognised as a society until probably after the horses bolted that was taking a very large economic risk. Energy productivity approaches are de-risking the energy economy. So instead of what we got, which was squandering billions of dollars and doubling our electricity bills, we could have cut our electricity bills for consumers. So it's very important that we learn from our mistakes right now, because If anything, the risks are increasing because technological change is accelerating, and the risk for stranded assets is increasing. And with a rapid march of transformative technology, we need to be right on top of this, and the best way of getting on top of it is to be engaged in energy productivity. We also will miss opportunities if we don't get this right, because I think we constantly underestimate how much technology can change in the next 15 years and how much that will transform our economy and improve our energy productivity. And Alan Finkel over there, the Chief Scientist, will be talking about this a little bit later, but if you just think about what happened in the last 15 years, 15 years ago, the number of people on the internet was in the single percents, like 3 or 4%. We're now up to 50% of the world's population. We didn't have iPhones, no social media. A BlackBerry was a fruit. Then it wasn't, and now it is again. Cameras with film outsold digital cameras. If you have a look at on the energy side, the standard lighting was incandescents and T8 tubes. Then it became compact fluorescence and T5s. Now it's LEDs, and this all happened in 15 years. We've had 2 complete change-outs of technology. In fact, I heard this morning on the radio that GE had announced that they were no longer going to manufacture compact fluorescent lamps. So that's a marker, and it's all happened. I mean, compact fluorescent lamps were not even on the market 15 years ago, and now they're being discontinued. So we're in such a period of radical technology change that not only the equipment that we use is being revolutionised, but the entire operation of supply chains, entire business and social modes of operation, how we work, how we move, how we live, are rapidly changing. And so this is going to have a very profound impact on energy productivity. And I think we greatly underestimate the amount of change that's going to occur in this area and the opportunity for improvement. I'd like to briefly talk about the National Energy Productivity Plan, and Stephen's going to be talking about this following me. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the support that we've got from the Commonwealth in running our Doubling Energy Productivity program. It's a business-led coalition, and the business is putting a lot of time and effort into it, but without the Commonwealth's help in this area, we would not have been able to do this. And so very much appreciate that, and also the very collaborative way that we work with the Commonwealth. The business people and we in the A2SC really appreciate that collaboration. So we now have a National Energy Productivity Plan. Does this mean we've won? We can go home now. Well, a few things that we'd like to do still. Firstly, the government's got a 40% improvement target from 2015. We have a doubling target from 2010. Their target's about 60% of our target. But this is not a target wars. This is really about, is it enough? And I think we can show that it's not going to be enough. And it's not going to be enough because of the reasons that I mentioned. It's not going to be enough to maintain our competitiveness, let alone catch up and pass some of our competitors. From an environmental point of view, we're going to quickly figure out that as our targets for carbon reduction increase, the way we're going to want to as a society first attack those is through energy productivity, because it actually improves the economy. So we're concerned a little bit about that. We'd like to see, obviously, we think it's a great start, the energy productivity plan. The framework is fantastic. We now have to flesh it out with good policies, and hopefully we can get the government to specifically fund the entire agenda, because I think this is pretty important now that one's been established. You'll see our submission on that we made originally to the NEP on our website. When we have one, I think we'll have a stronger target. We'll have all the policies in place to deliver it. We'll have independent monitoring and verification for the program. I think we'll have very good integration with the climate policy and the energy productivity policy, and a long-term forward budget. And I mean long-term because I think, like the UK's climate budget, where they're budgeting 10 years in advance and committing 10 years funding in advance, I think that's needed in this area. I think we've got an opportunity to do that. We've got genuine consensus in this area, so I think we've got the opportunity to have a long-term agenda. The other bright light in the firmament, and Minister Speakman is going to be talking to that, is the New South Wales government's activities in this area, which have been showed great leadership and continue to show great leadership. They've got wonderful programs and they're improving them every day. I think that we would like to see the New South Wales government have those integrated with the economic agenda through an energy productivity platform, but we can talk about that further. But the New South Wales is the shining light in this area in Australia. We'd like to thank also the New South Wales government for its support also for our work, and it's very fitting given the government's leadership in this area that we hold the summer study in New South Wales. So a few brief comments about the Doubling Energy Productivity organisation and process. So it's a business-led coalition, as I mentioned. A2SE provides sort of secretariat support, but it's an independent organisation with its own steering committee. We've got 30 leaders from across business to help drive this energy productivity agenda. And we set it up to be leadership for business in this area and also to be a key business reference group for government. Under that banner, we now have 10 working groups, and it's getting towards 100 people working on those working groups, senior people from business working to develop roadmaps for achieving the Doubling Energy Productivity program. And they cover every sector of the economy, end-use sector of the economy, plus we've got working groups on finance, metrics, innovation and communications. So I'd like to very much thank all the businesses and business people that are spending an enormous amount of time, and researchers and government people that are putting an enormous amount of time into our Doubling Energy Productivity program. Without them, there would be no program. So the next steps that we're doing in this process, we're developing sectoral roadmaps for how we're going to double energy productivity in each of the sectors for completion by the end of May. We're going to be launching the manufacturing roadmap in April. And the manufacturing roadmap we're actually going to launch in Victoria to get them engaged. We're just organising the Victorian Minister to help us launch that, and maybe we can get Minister Frydenberg involved as well. And it's going to be in the second half of April. We are looking forward to the 2XEP Challenge, a voluntary commitment program for business to be launched hopefully July-ish. And you'll notice there's an international coalition also working in this area. The Women in Business Coalition are launching their EP100 program, and again, Kateri will probably talk about that later. That's going to be launched and is well coordinated with our national program in terms of its objectives. We're hoping to launch the national economic roadmap for 2XEP in July in toto, and we're increasing our involvement in the innovation agenda at A2SE as well. So to finalise, yes, this is something we can be happy about and optimistic about. It's something we all agree about. All parties agree about it. Business agrees about it. I've got Green people sitting with right-wing business people, and they're all in very nice, happy consensus working on this topic. So we found something that we can all agree to. We must improve our energy productivity. So it's, I think there's also a good consensus around the need for this from an environmental point of view as well. So we've got a choice now. We can keep going the way we were, or we can accelerate, improve our GDP, improve jobs, opportunities, reduce our emissions, reduce oil imports, and reduce our energy spend by $30 billion or more, $75 billion a year of total productivity benefits. So finally, I would like to thank you again. I'd like to invite you to join us in the 2XEP program. We've got plenty of room for people to participate, to provide funding support for us, to join the working groups. As I said, we've got 10 very active working groups where you can make a contribution with your ideas to the agenda. And thank you very much for attending.